Okay. And now I can close this, right, Cal? Got it.
YouTube, yeah, once you're connected, you can, yeah.
Okay. And where did you guys go? Hold on, I lost all of you guys. You're here somewhere, I assume. There you are. Hi.
Hi, I was having some trouble with my laptop and I was trying to test and make sure that everything would run, but that was,
Jill, I see Matt Solikowski under attendees.
Okay, let me go get him. Yeah, there's another Jill DeCaro on too, so. Where is Matt? That could be Frank on.
And I just
I
saw.
don't-
And now
I
he's
don't see him. Oh, there he is. All right. Let me promote to panelist. Matt Solikowski, you're getting promoted. There he is. You see anybody else? Any other board members over there?
not in the attendees, not so far, no. I see another Jill DeCaro and I see somebody connecting to audio, but it doesn't show who it is.
Okay. Who is signed on here under my name?
No, you're signed under my name. I'm Frank Weber. It should be
You're-
Frank Weber up there, not you.
Okay. Okay, Frank. I'm just going to change your name, okay? Unless you want to stay Jill all night. It's up to you.
No, one is enough, thank you.
Okay, yeah, that is true. That is true, Frank.
Frank, is your camera working? Because you were on before.
No, my camera is not working. My laptop also crashed, so the camera on my PC is whatever. It's very fuzzy.
Okay.
I look 100 years older, and that's, I'm already old enough. I don't need help.
Listen, I don't think
Yes,
any
get one of those
I don't think
circle
any of us
lights.
is happy with our little square.
I saw Audrey Baker the other day in the high school, and I was like, oh, it's so nice to see you not in that little square. Okay, so I guess we will start the meeting. Let me share my screen. Okay, I'll get over there. Okay, so we're going to call the meeting to order. Let me just widen my screen. Okay. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the board office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118 and Verizon Fios Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the township clerk. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. The board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Mr. Mara?
Thank you, Mr. Kara. The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that that act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered the private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Callie?
Here.
Mr. DePrima?
Here.
Mr. Dunn? Mr. Dunn? Ms. Alice Foster?
Here,
Mr. Giordano?
Here.
Mr. Solikowski?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Ms. DeCaro?
Here.
The quorum exists.
Okay, now let me stop sharing this. and get my flag up. Where is it? There it is. All right, and let's all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we can all please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Moment of silence was to honor, let me get the agenda back up. Moment of silence was to honor the death of Michael Millman, retired Old Bridge High School teacher and coach, and Dr. Timothy Charles Brennan, interim superintendent, and express its deepest sympathy to their family and friends.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to, when I spoke to Michael Millman's widow, she just wanted me to convey to everyone that not only was he a great teacher, coach, and he was a substitute in the district for many years as well, but a wonderful father, husband, and friend and neighbor to everyone who knew him. And of course, we all are grateful for the time that Dr. Brennan spent with us here in Old Bridge, and pass along our sympathy to his family as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Carroll, I see that Mr. Dunn appears to be here, but he did not respond present.
He wasn't here at that time,
so he's-
Mr. Mayor. Yeah,
Is he, so Mr. Dunn, he's still on mute.
he's muted. Yeah. Mr. Rich, if you can just unmute and just let Mr. Mayor know you're here. He might be traveling. All right.
Okay, well, I can see that he's here, so.
Okay, okay. Code of Ethics Corner, I believe, Ms. Sellis Foster, that was you who volunteered to read today?
Yes, it was. Code of Ethics Corner, highlight of the month. The board will confine her board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal, and help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted with those who will be affected by them.
Thank you very much. And there are our district goals and our board goals. So next we need, I need a motion to approve the minutes. Item number 1 for
I'll move
February
it.
agenda. Kelly, Ms. Ellis Foster, and a second,
Burns will second.
Burns. Okay, and any discussion? Okay, roll call, Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima, Mr. DePrima,
You're muted.
Muted.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn? Mr. Dunn? I'm not sure what to do with Mr. Dunn. Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes,
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes,
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
and Mr. Dunn. I'll try again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. All
Motion
right.
passes. Motion passes. Resolution 1 passes.
Okay, so, oh, there he is. Hi, Dan. Next up, we have report of our student representative to the board, Mr. Dan Rita. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm very good. What do you have for us tonight?
So, just hi everybody again. As you may know, my name is Daniel Rita, and I'm the Old Bridge High School 2020 to 2021 school president. Just want to remind you guys that we're staying strong through this virtual year, and we have been making the most of what we can, and every day just reminding ourselves that we are going to get through this. Just a reminder also that we are always here for everyone and anyone if anybody ever needs anything. Old Bridge High School's very own Red Cross Club has began a food drive in conjunction with the Old Bridge Food Bank, which began on March 1st. All non-perishable donations can be brought to the high school library or the GNC main office. And if you are reporting remote, donations can be brought after school from 12 to 2 at the main campus only, so not the GNC. Anybody can donate, so just feel free to donate if you want. We are also excited to announce that the latest fundraiser for the senior class has been announced. This year's seniors lost so much, and we want them to know that even though they did not spend much time in the building, they will always be a part of Old Bridge High School. We are selling bricks to create a senior pathway in the courtyard. And if some of you guys know, a senior privilege is to have lunch in the courtyard. And so we just wanted to commemorate that. You can purchase a brick for $40, and the link will be on the Old Bridge High School website. And if you don't have a senior, but you want to still contribute to this, you can still purchase a brick. Just reach out to Mrs. Obdike, and all money collected is going to be used for senior scholarships. The Senate board has continued to meet virtually in order to keep coming up with these new events and activities, bringing us together while we are apart. You can keep up with all the new and exciting events by following us on Twitter @SenateOB. And we actually just created a new Instagram page, which is OBHS Student Senate, and that's all lowercase and all one thing. And we have Meditation Mondays, Tuesday Treat Spots, Way Back Wednesday Picks, Thursday Tunes, and Feature Fridays. So those are just some suggestions. And shout out to the amazing group of students who has actually been meeting in these committees to put this all together. I think it was our marketing committee that brought this idea. And just as always, you got this, Old Bridge, and we got you.
Thank you so much, Dan. Does anybody have any questions for Dan? Nope. All right. So moving right along, we don't have recognition, correct? Mr. Citadino?
Well, in a way we do. So why don't we kind of tie it all together with the recognition? It's not the recognition the board will have to vote on, but I do know that you have a musical piece for us tonight to share, put together by one of our teachers, Colin Bell, who does an instrumental music program. So if we can start off by sharing that. I know we're going to work you hard tonight, Mr. Caro. A lot of presentations, a lot of you going up there and sharing screens, and so we're going to be patient, and don't worry. I'll keep talking while you keep working. I'll do like the stretch it out for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Here we go. I think we're good. Okay, so
Mr. Bell put this together with some of his students to show what they've been working on, and they're calling it gratitude, and gratitude for everyone, families, students, and especially educators who have worked hard through this very difficult time.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you, teachers. Thank you, parents.
Thank you to the administration and the Board of Education.
Thank you, Old Bridge. Thank you, Old Bridge. Thank you, Old Bridge.
How was that?
So that was very nice and very much appreciated to see that work. And again, that musical piece was composed by Mr. Bell, and the arrangement was done by Mr. Bell. And the students learned every bit of that remotely, from what I understand. So there were some obstacles, obviously, in learning remotely, and these students did a wonderful job achieving and overcoming those obstacles. So thank you very much for that piece. So next, we're going to go into the superintendent's report. That's a two-part report tonight. One, because as a community, as a nation, we celebrate the achievements of the wonderful women who have shaped our nation currently and historically. And that includes all of the women on this board who were elected to this position and hold a historic part of our community. So without you and your contributions to our community, we wouldn't have the abilities to, be gathered here and working together as a board for the betterment of our students. And then the less glamorous piece is that twice a year I have to do the HIB, violence and vandalism, and controlled dangerous substance usage report for the district. And this is by law that we have to do this. So we can go through the next slide, and that'll do the just introduction as to this artwork that has been adopted to symbolize the observance of Women's History Month. And in it, we have students, former students from the high school. I wanted to exemplify what they did when I talk about it. This is just something that the high school does, and the students create like a wax museum where you go up and they provide any visitors to the school with the historic women throughout the time period who've shaped our world. And there was always a great opportunity. I know that some of the schools did that remotely this year. And some of the activities that began or took place this month, beginning in kindergarten, students discussed with students the impact that women have had on the history of the United States. They've read books and completed activities on famous women, including Harriet Tubman, Sally Ride, Eleanor Roosevelt, Martha Washington, and Michelle Obama. They read books and completed worksheets on various women in history in the first grade as well, including Juliet Lowe, Helen Keller, Sandra Day O'Connor. And they completed the writing prompts for art projects of influential women through history. And that includes NASA astronaut Maya Jamison and Sacagawea, who helped explorers Lewis and Clark. In the second grade, our students read about women and their contributions to society, including that of Betsy Ross and the study of our flag and how Betsy Ross' life was compared then until present. And students also made brochures about the biography, vocabulary of fun facts and comprehension questions about famous women in history, including Amelia Earhart, Kamala Harris, Queen Elizabeth, Mother Teresa, Joan of Arc. You can go to the next slide too while I'm just going through that. That just shows some of the women in history that have been selected by our students and to commemorate and write about and study about this year. In the third grade, our students investigated the lives of such women as Sally Ride, Anne Frank, and Helen Keller. They read short biographies and completed comprehensive worksheets of various women throughout the course of history, and they did a poster project about women in history. In the fourth grade, not only did they read and write research about famous women, they created a timeline of women in history and watched videos about famous women, including Malala, Maya Angelou, and Dr. Marie Curie. They also read a short biography about Eleanor Roosevelt and completed a word search on her lifetime. By fifth grade, our scholastic news was read and discussed online and remotely, and essays were written about the progress of equality and integration in today's society. The students took part in brain pops and created PowerPoint presentations about women in history and compared and contrasted them. They viewed women during the suffragist movement and women who've shaped and built our nation. And they did so also by reporting it out on Flipgrids. In middle school, students were asked to think about all the women who they've learned about since kindergarten and chose a woman in history and from their life to write a short essay comparing the impact of you and your view of the history of the world because of that woman. They viewed a video, The Birth of America, the women's movement, to acquaint students and some of them with the influential women in the early feminist movement, namely Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. The students created posters depicting how women have helped create life and, helped create the 18th and 19th Amendments. They analyzed women's suffrage movement again and women's struggles to the right to vote. They discussed the women's contributions to our country, including women in politics and women activists. By high school, students took part in, like I said, the online version of the Wax Museum, and students reached out to researched and reached out to influential women to find out how they really advanced in their careers. Students did a showcase of their contributions about women's empowerment. So we thank and we applaud all the women locally and globally and historically who've made a tremendous impact on our lives today, here in Old Bridge and in the future. So thank you very much. Now, for the second part of the report, which is the required by law that I have to report twice a year. You can go to the next slide. Every year, the superintendents are required to report to the Board of Education incidents of violence and vandalism which occurred during the previous school year. Now, obviously, this year will be like no other year because the incidences will be a lot less because of the pandemic. And we're reporting on period 1, and that would period 1 consist of September through December. So this past September through December of the school year. Next slide, please. The Department of Education requires this reporting through the student safety data system, and it's used to help to maintain all this data and make sure it's accurate and it's reporting. We're required to report both alleged and confirmed cases of HIB cases. And that happened, you'll see the change in that in the data when we go through it. That requirement only came into impact the past 2 years, that you had to report not only on the confirmed cases, but the alleged cases as well. Next slide, please. So some of the data that's collected from the SSDS system includes violence, vandalism, weapons use, substance abuse, results of vandalism, whether police were notified and a complaint was filed, that police were notified and no complaint was filed, whether it resulted in school suspension, out of school suspension, expulsions, unilateral removals, or removal by an administrative law judge. We report about the offenders and the victims, whether they're student offenders, student victims, school personnel victims, student victims of violent criminal offenses. We also report upon the disciplinary action that took place, whether it be assignments, instruction or support services, in-district programming, home assignments, home instruction, or out-of-district programming. So during this period from September 1 of 2020 to December 31st to 2020, we have 0 incidents to report. Under the HIB, because believe it or not, through the process of being online, students do tend to use online platforms, not only school platforms, but social media platforms to bully, intimidate, harass each other or others. We did have 4 incidences of those situations where 4 incidents reported. All 4 incidences had the mandatory 10-day investigation period, and the board rendered their decision in all 4 situations. This is the comparative data for the time periods.
Keep going.
Yeah. And this is the confirmed HIB for the past several years as well. And like I said, you can see in 2000, up into 2016, 17, you didn't have to report back on alleged incidents. You only had to report on confirmed incidences. So we had 4 alleged and 4 confirmed. And that's not rare when you're talking about online harassment and bullying, because usually there's a trail of evidence that makes it definitive. When there is an allegation of harassment, intimidation, or bullying between 2 people in person, sometimes it can be alleged but hard to confirm if there's not witnesses or evidence thereof. But with the online versions, there usually is a digital footprint, which we use to confirm the case.
Is that it?
That completes the superintendent's report. Now we'll go to the much anticipated progress towards goals.
Okay.
While you get that ready, I'm going to just have a thirst quencher.
Okay, hold on, let me end that show. All right, shut that. And
Maybe, is there any questions from the board about any of the online reporting, HIB reporting? Seeing none.
okay, so we're doing the
Yes.
reopening plan, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Just want to make sure I have the right one up. Yeah. And I want to do slideshow. Ew. There we go. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so as we've discussed, and this has been an evolving process, the reopening plan as laid out to the public in August of 2020 was a plan that was meant to evolve and developed with the end goal in place of students coming back to school 5 days a week. How we got to that or get to that was all dependent on the conditions within the environment here in Old Bridge and within our schools. This picture here is actually of our students in school outside, enjoying some nice weather and taking part in our Old Bridge We Are One program and doing some great hand signaling with that. But it was a great opportunity to show that we can be masked up outside, socially distant, and taking part in an activity. This overview will review the parameters for maintaining in-person instruction, rules for COVID quarantine, CDC guidelines for opening schools that were adapted and updated on the 12th of February, the district schedule from March 1st through the last day of school, and Dr. Tui also will walk us through some of the NJSLA and AP testing assessment updates. So this was the community impact chart from when we were on full remote in December in the wake of the holiday and New Year's 14 days after that, when cases were at our highest, making it difficult for the school district to open because of the number of cases in their community, number of cases that we knew of students who were positive and staff members that are positive. And we knew that as we get further away from the respiratory illness season, the numbers should decline. And we've seen that decline up into this past week, where we've had a recent increase in cases, not only outside of school, but a slight increase inside of school, which we'll see in the next chart. We can see as we track this information from almost the same time period that we relatively held steady on our staff positives. There's an increased number of staff positives, not dramatically, but a slight increase from the previous week. We're at 10 staff members positive as of 3/16, with 20 staff members quarantined and 3 cases pending. Student positivity is 22, 98 quarantined, and 16 cases pending. A lot of the student positivity and quarantines are the results of some of the athletic programs that we do have in the district, and some of the transmissions that may have taken place within those teams or resulted in quarantines for those teams. Staff vaccinations as of today, approximately 250 staff members have signed up to be placed on a district vaccination wait list. You know, as staff members are working very hard to find vaccinations themselves, we're also trying to facilitate that as a district. working with numerous providers within and outside of our community who've been assisting us. Through that process, we've been able to get a quarter of that 250 members vaccinated. Right now, it's been a little frustrating this week as a lot of the, I would say the retail pharmacy ends of it have had a slowdown in their distribution or delivery of vaccines, as it seems their corporate are explaining to them that a lot of vaccines are being moved to large vaccination sites throughout the state, mass vaccination sites, and not going as much to the smaller sites. And we're hoping that through that change will mitigate itself and allow us to get more of them. But each of the groups that I'm working with is committed to getting our staff vaccinated as quickly as possible, and will not stop until our staff members are vaccinated. These are the parameters we've been using since they've been initiated by the CDC and the Department of Health, that are guidelines for when schools are allowed to stay open, when schools have to close because of outbreaks or spreads. We've gone over this several times. There's 2 more cases in a school during 14 days that are linked together by some in-school activity. That means conclusively, I can demonstrate that a transmission took place within the school. The second one is 2 or more cases are identified within 14 days that occurs across multiple classrooms, and a clear connection between classes cannot be easily made. So that was similar to what we had at Miller School in the fall, where we had multiple positive cases that were no relative transmission could have appeared to have taken place outside of school. The only nexus of transmission might have been inside of school, but we still had no definitive reason why students would be transmitting to each other. They were in separate classrooms, separate transportation, everything. So when we conversed with the Department of Health for their resources, they told us to use option 2, and we closed the school down for 14 days because of that. Option 3 was used after November and into December and January, when the Department of Health identified that our region was a hotspot area, and we had numerous cases, hundreds of cases per week of COVID within our community, and that related to numbers that were impacting our schools and students, that even though we weren't reporting to school, we had a large number of staff and students that were reporting to be COVID positive at the time. These are the quarantine procedures. Dr. Hook, I don't want to throw you under the, without letting you know too much. Do you want to just go through these? Because you work so hard on these with Audrey Baker. So I'll just give you the opportunity to read through these.
Okay, thank you. So when we're contacted, as soon as a parent notifies the school nurse or the building principal, the nurse begins the process notifying Audrey Baker. And then we go through a series of questions to ensure whether social distancing was maintained, whether masks were in place. And as long as the protocols were followed, then it's not necessary to quarantine members that were in a particular location. When it comes to staff, the procedures are the same. We're asking the questions. We follow up with if a student is in school within 48 hours of being determined that they're positive, then we go back to the teacher. We make sure that the contact was, no contact was made, and that there weren't additional staff members in the classroom. Like I said, it's a series of questions. It usually takes a couple of hours to go through the process. Once we are notified, we contact transportation if the student was on the bus, or if it's a staff member that was driving the bus, and we complete a COVID incident report, which is followed up by the school principal and the staff in that building that have to complete portions of it, making sure that the classrooms were cleaned and all notifications were made. That's another component, that we have a series of notifications. You saw tonight that we sent out for the last couple of days, the cases that were brought to our attention, and the number of students and staff that are quarantined as a result of those cases.
Thank you. And I do want to reiterate that in that one area, the travel quarantine has not been lifted by the state of New Jersey yet, Department of Health. That still is in place. That may change at some point, but as currently the travel quarantine, regardless of you're vaccinated or not, remains in place. And I do want to commend not only Dr. Hoker and Ms. Audrey Baker, but every school nurse right now, because when a case happens within their schools, the contact tracing is often taking place at night, on the weekend, Sunday. I know we're on the phone Sunday night, Saturday night. So really appreciate them taking time from their families and themselves to do the contact tracing with us. These are some of the CDC guidelines for reopening schools that came out on February 12th. Again, a lot of the universal precautions that we've all been used, they doubled down on the use of masks, physical distancing, hand washing, cleaning, contact tracing. Schools providing in-person instruction should prioritize 2 mitigation strategies: universal and correct use of masks that should be required, and physical distancing up to 6 feet. I know that Dr. Fauci and the CDC has been looking at reducing that number by looking at different studies that took place over the course of time. We are acutely aware of all the research on that, and we are working with our Department of Health to see if they're going, once the CDC adopts that and brings those recommendations to the Department of Health, that would be a game changer for us as well with here in the district, and allow us to, again, to expand our opportunities. These are some of the options we're looking at for a longer full day of instruction, in which lunch would be served in this is available in the schools to extended day. One, that we're seeing a constant reduction in positive COVID cases in our schools and our community. Teachers and staff have had the availability to become vaccinated, and the county has moved from an orange zone to a yellow zone. Because I believe those same requirements will also be used to lift the indoor dining ban within the state too, which hasn't been fully lifted yet either. There's right now, I believe that right now it's at certain capacities. So this is our AABB schedule for the current 50% cohort that we have in place right now. Students electing to attend in-school person are divided into 2 cohorts. Students are in the silver cohort, attend Mondays and Tuesdays. Students in the purple cohort, Thursdays and Fridays. Students in the gray cohort attend Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday schedule would be half day in person. Wednesday is full remote. The gray cohort are all students who are in the self-contained classrooms, resource pullout, 504, ELL settings, started attending 4 days a week as of March 12th. Through March 12th, I'm sorry. Elementary students, this is a change in this, so please pay attention here. Elementary students may begin having a mask and snack break as weather allows, preferably outdoors. This is for elementary students only beginning Monday, March 22nd. Information will go out. Elementary principals will notify staff, parents of the snack updates and what will be allowed for and what's provided in their weekly update that will go out to parents as well this week. So as the weather permits and as the time changes, those students will be having outdoor time more, and preferably we'd like to have their mask and snack break outside. Dr. Stu, you want to take over here?
Sounds good. Thanks, Mr. Dino. This past Monday, March 15th, we did welcome back the preschoolers in the cohorts at Glen School and at Southwood School. So kudos to Dr. Lombardi and Mrs. Foley for welcoming our preschool students with open arms, as they always do. Those students will be attending 4 days a week as part of the great cohort on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we will continue to monitor the entrance of new students to ensure equal class size throughout the district. So we're very happy to see the increased number of preschoolers come to our school over the past 2 days. We're looking forward to seeing more students as we transition through the rest of the school year. Some of the feedback that we received specifically from students who are remote and parents who have elected up to this point to have their students remote is that the parents are looking to have their students come back prior to the fourth marking period. So students who are currently remote can return in person prior to the fourth marking period based on class by class capacity within our district. In some of our elementary schools especially, the classrooms can fit additional students and still maintain the social distancing guidelines that we have outlined previously in this presentation. If a parent is looking to have their students return to school in person prior to the beginning of the fourth marking period, which would be on or around April 12th, which would be after the break, the parent should contact the building principal or guidance staff to request a return to in-person instruction, which will be done within 5 school days or without undue delay. Obviously, if there's room in the classroom and the principal can arrange either for transportation or to have the student come back in as quickly as possible, we would do so to try and get some normalcy to the students who in some cases haven't had the opportunity to physically come to school during the course of this very long year. The district will continue to maintain social distancing protocols across all classes to the greatest extent possible. And again, those were outlined previously in this presentation to ensure that the safety of the staff and the students are maintained at all times. Beginning on April 5th, we are, as we continue to work to have more students return to school more often for an in-person instruction, we'll be slightly changing our cohort model beginning the Monday after spring break. So on Monday, April 5th, the silver and purple cohorts will begin a 3-day in-person and 2-day remote rotation. Beginning on Monday, April 5th, the gray cohort will attend all 5 days in person. So the silver cohort, for example, that first week we're returning, there's a calendar that will accompany this on the next slide, but on Monday, April 5th, Tuesday, April 6th, and Wednesday, April 7th, the silver cohort will be in person. So there'll be no remote Wednesdays after the spring break. Also that week on April 8th and April 9th, the purple cohort will be in person. The following week, on April 12th, Monday, April 12th, and Tuesday, April 13th, the silver cohort will be in person, while that second week after spring break, the Wednesday, April 14th, Thursday, April 15th, and Friday, April 16th, the purple cohort will be in person. The pattern will continue through April, and all days will remain on an early dismissal schedule until further notice. Beginning on May 3rd, and this is a shift that we are looking to move forward to based on the parameters that had been discussed previously. We are looking to have potentially the middle school, elementary, middle, and high school students return in person 5 days a week on an early dismissal schedule. We will look at our ability to extend those days for all grade levels as conditions allow. And again, as outlined earlier in the presentation, one of those conditions would be the provision of lunch. And so it would be very difficult to extend that early dismissal day without obviously having students being able to consume lunch during the academic day. The extension to the 5-day a week would be, again, contingent on what we see in the community. And hopefully as the numbers continue to trend downward, we will be in a much better situation to have the students potentially return beginning on Monday, May 3rd, to a 5-day a week sense of normalcy on an early dismissal schedule. This is a visual depiction of what was just described. So for today, March 16th, the silver cohort was in person. Tomorrow is a remote day. Thursday, Friday of this week, the purple cohort will be in person, and the same schedule will remain for next week, the week of March 22nd. Beginning on April 5th, the silver cohort will attend 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, purple 2 days, Thursday, Friday, and the following week, on the week of April 12th, it will be 2 days silver, 3 days purple, and that pattern will continue through April. Again, as proposed currently, tentatively on Monday, May 3rd, the elementary, middle, and high school will potentially return in person 5 days a week on an early dismissal schedule. And hopefully that will run through the end of the last day of school. Currently, the last day of school for this school year is on Wednesday, June 16th. Final exams, will be on Thursday. Final exams for the high school will be on Thursday, the 10th, Friday, the 11th, Monday, the 14th, and Tuesday, the 15th, as currently scheduled.
Thank you, Dr. Tui. So just summation while we're on this calendar, everyone can sort of look at it and absorb it. As we come back from spring break, we go to the 3-2 schedule. We anticipate that there will be gatherings in homes. There will be families coming together, hopefully locally within our area, and not a lot of travel, because we're concerned about the level of travel and what that would mean to the transmission of the virus and bringing it back to Old Bridge. However, we're going to continue with our schedule. I know that a few districts, not many, some have opted to go remote for a week or 2 weeks completely after that in anticipation of that. But our task force would like to believe that the community of Old Bridge will do the right thing and protect their investment in their child's education and allow us to continue with an in-person education hybrid model throughout the time. It's a great unknown for the month of April as to what will happen. It'll be the first large recess and holiday time in which we're returning. In other times, though they happen during the respiratory illness season, New Year's Eve and Christmas and Thanksgiving, we did have spikes within the community for the 14 days following that. Again, we believe that also the number of people who have already had COVID, the number of people who have been vaccinated against COVID during that time period should help mitigate that concern. Another concern for us is obviously that our staff has the ability to receive at least one of the Johnson & Johnson or two of the Moderna or Pfizer vaccinations throughout the course of the month of March and April. That obviously, again, talking about game changers, that's a game changer for them and offers them a level of comfort as we go into the May and June time period with 5 days a week. And it is my understanding from talking to those in the Department of Health that at that point or soon before that point, the DOH and the CDC will be limiting the 6-foot distance at that time and allowing us to, again, go into maybe a 3-foot distance or so forth that allows us to bring more students in. The most important thing is we'll be away from the, I don't want to beat a dead horse in the respiratory illness season, but as a large carrier of the COVID virus during this time. So we'll be away from the respiratory illness season by at least a month. At that point, the numbers should be down and we will be able to do this. We would love to say that at least at the elementary level, again, all of that blue is early dismissal. We would love to expand it even further as we continue to expand this model with having lunch served, at least at the elementary level. But again, that requires a lot of changes within going from orange to yellow. That requires us even have staffing. We're going to put another push out tomorrow to acquire the amount of noon hour supervisors, or as some of you may know them as lunchroom supervisors that look over our lunch periods and supervise our children during that time, whether in the cafeteria or outside or in the classroom during recess when the weather is not available to us. We have a limited number of them that have reported to work this year for some of the positions that we've had for them. We want to make sure that we have the ability. Also, we have enough substitutes available to us. This district has gone above and beyond to get substitutes and hiring. We've even brought in an outside agency to assist us. You'll see at the end of our entire board meeting today under new business, there'll be a video in which we're using to recruit staff to come to work in the district. Again, we've been ahead of this on trying to get substitutes to come in. Again, and across the state, there is a shortage. That concludes this presentation. We are happy that at the end of this and the phase in and the process that we go through, that we do have our students in 5 days a week. And we look forward to having that here in Old Bridge. And we look forward to our community all coming together, doing the right thing so that we can have that for our students here in Old Bridge. Dr. Tui, you want to end us off on the testing assessments?
Yes, we are currently monitoring both federal and local guidelines for state assessments. As of right now, they have been postponed until April 5th after our current spring break. We will provide parents and staff any updates as they become available. We do anticipate offering AP testing as we normally do every year this upcoming June. So it will be the last week of May and the first 2 weeks of June, which is the AP window for Old Bridge High School. If you have any questions on AP testing, please refer them to Mrs. Tevald, who is our district AP coordinator, and her email is attached to this presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for administration? Ms. Burns?
Hey, yeah, I have 2 questions. One is about students who are remote and they're choosing not to go back. How will those assessments be handled?
Currently, students do take remote assessments. They do it at all grade levels, so they would still be required to take the same assessments that their cohort is taking in school. They would just do so remotely.
Okay, I just know that sometimes there are higher standards of security when they're doing those assessments. So I wasn't sure if a camera or some kind of circumstances would be different. My other question is about, are we serving breakfast currently? If we expand to a full day, will we still be doing food distribution?
If we go to a full day and we have the students in place, most likely, again, we're working with Aramark on this, but most likely we would go to again, for the full day, we'd go to quick lunch meals, meals that would be easier for students and quicker for students to have, because our goal is not to have them inside the building as much as possible during those lunch breaks, have less inside and more outside, even bag lunches that they could take with them outside, and not sitting down with spaghetti and meatballs and a fork and everything else. As far as providing for breakfast for those students, I know right now what they're doing is they're getting, for the students who are requesting and requiring it, they're getting picked up all of the meals for the day. So it has their lunches in it because they are having lunch at home, and their breakfast in it to eat prior to coming to school. So we might have to, if we adapt to just lunch in school, again, we'll go through discussions with Aramark. We might have to continue with giving them a grab and go breakfast at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, those students who are in school would take their breakfast home with them for the morning, which, would consist of a juice, a granola bar, what have you.
Would anyone else, does anybody else have any questions before we move on? Kelly?
Just one thing, and I'm sorry, Mr. Sedadina, you might have said this. Is the presentation going to be on the district website tomorrow?
Not only is it going to be on the district website, it'll also be a link to it will be sent home to all parents with a weekly update tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else? Rich?
Madam President, I just want to ask a quick question. Now, regarding the feasibility and the possibility of going back full time, 5 days a week, my question to Superintendent Sedadino is when do you anticipate that? Is that something that's in the cards this year? I think based upon my knowledge and seeing the data that you're seeing, it's in all likelihood, there would be a window to go back 5 days. Is that our intention, Mr. Sedadino?
During the presentation, we talked about that our intention for all students going back 5 days would begin on May 3rd and through June 16th. The only caveat is whether it's an early dismissal or whether it's a full day. That is yet to be determined. Again, with the secondary, it probably would be an early dismissal throughout the course of till June 16th, but with the elementary, with the right conditions in place and the right staffing in place, again, and we're going to look for those new hour supervisors to come back, and if we can't get enough, then we'll hire new ones for the positions and for next year. That would be one of the larger conditions. And we understand, a lot of people in those positions have not opted to come back because of whatever health concerns or, and again, the ability to get a vaccine, I guess, I'm sure would be a game changer for them too. But right now, the plan as it stands is that all students come back 5 days a week, beginning on May 3rd through June 16th.
Excellent. Thank you. I just wanted you to reaffirm that because I want people to hear that, the administration and your team has worked tirelessly with members of the community to get kids back in school. I know that, it's a long time coming to get to that point, but you know what, we've gone through the hurdles, we've gone through the process, and now the roadmap is in front of us. So, I know that there were a lot of parents out there who were upset. Now, they see that, we are on the right track and the right road. And I hope that this gives them some solace that, we are getting the kids back in school this year. Thank you, Dave. Much appreciated.
Right. And just to piggyback that is, it's evolving that process too. So, right after spring break, it's alternating 3 days a week, then to the 5 days a week, the following 4 weeks later, it's 5 days a week.
Okay, anyone else? All right, correspondence, Mr. Mara?
There's no correspondence, Mr. Kara.
All right, and do we have any special committee reports?
We had a committee meeting several weeks ago, and Dr. Tui made the presentation twice. He did it last week, and he did it the week before at my meeting. And I don't want to put him on the spot for a third time because it's about 45 minutes long. Dr. Tui, would you like to give a maybe 1 minute breakdown? That's about it.
We're looking
I know we went over block scheduling and the course book for next year. 1 minute, that's all you have.
Yes, sir. Okay. So we're looking to move to block scheduling on the secondary level, high school and middle school, and continue to work with the OBA to hammer out some language to address those potential changes. We're looking to make slight adjustments to the high school grading policy and to implement standards-based report cards on the elementary level. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tui.
I think you have like 10 seconds to spare, Dr. Tui. Very good.
Our next meeting will be right after spring break. I'll come up with the date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solakowski. Ms. Callie, did you?
I did have my hand raised. I'm just not loud enough, I guess. We had a community relations and engagement committee meeting in coordination with the district positivity committee on March 4th. And again, these meetings so far have all been to meet together with the positivity committee. And I'm going to put Dr. Hoker on the spot for a brief overview of what was discussed at that meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Callie. So an update from information that was shared last week, we wrapped up Youth Art Month. We had our students participate in hundreds of hours of creativity that was shared through Flipgrid. We offered mental health workshops from Effective School Solutions to both staff and students. And moving forward into April, we have tutorials that will be presented from our CTE students from cosmetology, culinary, and auto. They will be live how-to lessons provided for our students. We have 2 of our committee members, our middle school students from the positivity team, Kia Parek and Megan Valenzola, who came up with the idea to create a virtual cookbook. And that information will be going out district-wide in the coming weeks. I believe we might make it just before spring break. If not, it'll be as soon as we return, but that is an attempt to really celebrate the diversity in our district and have our families share their recipes and photos and videos in a cookbook that will be shared on the website. We also had Brooke Chilbowski, who presented, and I'm just pulling up another screen so I don't miss anything, on behalf of the SEPTA We Are One movement and their partnership with our staff and students. Brooke shared that the expansion of the team We Are One includes students from Play Unified, the Asian Cultural Club, Asian Pacific Club, Chinese Honor Society, African American Club, teachers, paraprofessionals, parents, of course, SEPTA, and board liaisons. They have worked together. The We Are One ASL and modified sign language tutorial videos were shared. Old Bridge High School Play Unified released the nightly wrap up We Are One introduction. They're working on a community art project with Mrs. Jenks and Mrs. Keeler. Launched the We Are One t-shirt sweatshirt campaign, which I believe came to a conclusion, and hopefully the sweatshirts and t-shirts will be coming out soon. And they are continuing together to plan and organize workshops with SEPTA, provide teacher toolboxes, and there's multiple lengthy agendas from the We Are One campaign. And this presentation from Ms. Chobowski will also be on the district website so that you can see additional details. And I believe that's it for now.
Thank you, Dr. Hoker. We don't currently have another meeting scheduled, but these meetings are open to the public. And as I've told Dr. Hoker, I think at every meeting, this is my favorite meeting, has become my favorite meeting of the month. So I encourage everybody to attend. The creating of the District Positivity Committee has been a wonderful thing. And I encourage everybody to go onto the website and participate in the great activities that they have. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Callie. Okay.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Dunn.
just real quick, I just want to say that, yeah, we did have a committee of a whole for finance on February 18th, as we all know. That was the opportunity for the Board of Education to understand the 21-22 budget that is being finalized. As we know, we're still in that sequestration period where the state is taking millions of dollars from us, and it's been a very difficult process, as we all know. And the board is doing its best to make sure that we provide the finest education possible with the dollars that we have. And, there was a lot of information presented at that meeting. I'm not going to get into detail, but, we're looking to keep most of the programs, or if not all, in place, and more to come on the budget. And I know that we're working diligently to get that in place with the county, and then eventually we'll have a vote to finalize. But with that said, I want to assure the public that, we are, as a board, making sure that the quality of education will not be affected based upon Trenton's inefficiencies and their formulas for educational dollars. And rest assured, we're doing the right thing, and the quality of our education in Old Bridge will not be affected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Is anybody else? Are we all good? Anybody? No. I'm moving I have the attendees little thing here. That's why I'm looking around it. Okay, with that, we are going to move to the hearing of the residents on agenda items only. Okay, and remember, at the end of the meeting, the public will have a chance to speak on any school issue. This portion is for agenda items only. So when I call on you, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please identify yourself, okay? Thank you. So first up is Brooke. If you unmute yourself, please identify yourself and you can speak.
Hi, this is Brooke Richards Patterson. My son is a second grader and my daughter is a senior. And just to be clear, the agenda items are things that you've already discussed so far in this meeting, correct?
Yes,
okay.
Correct, Mr. Barton. Let me just confirm with Mr. Barton.
Patterson, just to clarify, it says on page 4 of the agenda items for discussion now are only items that are listed for action for tonight.
Okay, I had questions specifically about things that you had brought up, about snack time, recess, and the 5 days.
So if it was in the superintendent's report, should Brooke call in at the end, Mr. Parton? Or how do we want to work that?
Normally that would be at the end because that's not something that's being voted on tonight.
Okay, I'll wait, and then that's fine.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Brooke. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, the next up, again, for agenda items only, action items, Dana Marinaccio, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. You can unmute yourself and identify yourself again, and you can speak. You have to just unmute yourself. Dana? Dana? All right. Dana's having trouble, I guess, unmuting herself. So there is no other hands raised. So what should, Mr. Parton, should we just move on or?
Yeah, if Dana is having trouble logging in, she can always join in the later public portion. So yes, let's move through the agenda.
Okay. Okay, Dana, I urge you to call in, come back later at the end, okay? Because I see you can't unmute yourself. Okay. Seeing no other hands raised, I'm going to end the hearing of the residents portion on agenda items only. And let me get the, hold on. Sorry. Talk amongst yourselves for 2 seconds. No, just kidding. Hold on. There we go. Okay. And we are moving on to policy. There's nothing under policy. So we have curriculum, professional development, items 1 and 2. Can I have a motion, please?
Callie will move.
Callie, can I have a second?
I'll
I'll
second it.
second it.
Mr. Silikowski,
I
we're going to
never
go
do
with
it, but I never do it, but I second it. Go ahead.
All right, there
Nobody
you
else
go.
is speaking.
Okay, any discussion on curriculum, professional development, items 1 and 2?
I just have one brief question.
Yes.
For item number 1. Currently, students can do a sport and be in band at the middle school and at the high school. Will this change affect a student's ability to be in both band and?
No. I'm sorry, did you, right now the answer is no. It will not affect the students after after school ability to participate in a sport and band.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Yes,
Yes, Mr. Giordano?
yes. Resolution 1, it says the pending approval of the block scheduling. So resolution 1 doesn't include the approval of block scheduling, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? All right, Mr. Mayor, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Elvis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
resolution 1 and 2 pass.
All right, on to athletics. We have items 1 through, let me just scroll. 1, 2, and 3. So can I have a motion from the floor?
Callie will move.
Callie? Who wants to second? Burns?
Giordano.
Okay, we have Burns as seconding. Any discussion for athletics? 1, 2, or 3?
Yeah, just one comment from Mr. Weber. I
Yes,
know you're
Mr. Weber.
sitting on the edge of your seats, wanting to know what the total amount of coaching is. It's $189,772.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Weber. Okay, any other discussion for athletics? All right, can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Mara?
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Sulikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
resolutions 1, 2, and 3 pass.
All right, and we have finance items 1 through, where's it going?
One to 16.
Thank you. 1 through 16. Can I have a motion for finance items 1 through 16?
I'll make a motion, items 1 through 16, finance, Madam President.
Okay, can I have a second?
Weber will second.
Mr. Weber, any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Carroll, on item number 16,
Oops.
the resolution says, be it further resolved that the public hearing will be held in Old Bridge High School main TV studio. We need to change that to a public hearing will be held via the Zoom platform.
Okay.
Via the Zoom platform.
All righty.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on anything relating to finance?
Yep.
Mr. Giordano? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so as many of the town people know, I was against the forced spending of money used for capital projects. And as you know, I proposed to the whole board and it was approved unanimously to support Assembly Bill 5279 that would allow us to use the money from capital reserves to use it for educational purposes so that future boards do not have the incentive of spending the money only on capital reserves when they may not need to be made. And for resolution 14 with the travel and related expenses, I don't think it's right for the taxpayers of Old Bridge to be paying for the travel of the staff and the board. I just thought that was something that I didn't find right. I just want more explanation on that. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Okay, on the travel resolution, this is a standard resolution that's there every year, which proves it's not just travel, but it's also professional development that's for the most part mandatory for every certified person in the district, up to $150 a person. Now, we never come near $250,000 for actual expenditures for this, but it's something that if we didn't approve across the board initially during the year, it's required for us to put an amount in there for the year. But if we did not approve this up to $150 a person under curriculum each month, we would have to approve every professional development that happens during the year for every single teacher or for every single certified staff member. So it's called travel, but it also is inclusive by definition in the chart of accounts provided by the state, professional development fees that we pay for subscriptions to trainings.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, does
And
anybody else?
I would just like to point one thing out. I was in support of the resolution that Mr. Giordano proposed and the board voted on last month's meeting. However, I would like to point out that the governor in the last 48 hours has signed legislation that allows every school district to increase unrestricted fund balance from 2% of the prior year expenditures to 4%. That is significant. That means that what I've said over the number of years, that there is no reserve available for educational expenses. There's reserves for maintenance, there's reserves for facilities, and there are reserves for emergency. Now, by increasing the unrestricted fund balance from 2% to 4%, and in our case, from roughly $3 million to $6 million, we will have access to funds that we need for future to offset future cuts that the state that are headed in our direction as a result of the S4 formula. So that was a big change. It's only in effect for 22, 23, and 23 and 24, but it certainly will help us in the last 2 years of the S2 deductions. Thank you, Madam President.
Just to clarify, also the legislation that Mr. Giordano was referring to with moving the capital reserves, that bill is only also for only S2 districts and only for as long as the cuts are being made, like just through the 24-25 school years, I believe. And there's specific parameters with that. Am I correct in that? I guess it wouldn't be an ongoing thing forever and ever. Is that correct or no?
The legislation that was proposed by Representative Dancer, I'm not 100%. It's in its preliminary stages, so I'm not sure what is included, what will be contained, and how far it would go. So I can't really comment on what it may be, or even what it is at this point, because it's in committee. But this change in the unrestricted fund balance is now law, which has been signed in the last 48 hours by Governor Murphy.
And Mr. Carroll, the time frame for the Dancer bill that has been proposed is still being discussed. It's really wide open right now because it has not come out of committee yet. So we really don't know, but it looks like it's going to be mirroring the S2 time frame, but that can change.
Okay, I was just curious. Yeah, all right, very good. Does anybody else have any questions about finance? Ms. Ellis Foster.
Thank you. Just a few things, just reiterating on the travel expenses. I believe some of those are also covered or required by the collective bargaining agreements, some of those reimbursements. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're in the collective bargaining agreement with the OBEA and the administrative units, and they're also in the Department of Education's accountability regulations. They're all subject to review by your administrative team. You just see this big number once a year because then you kind of debit against that cap rather than having to go through and take board action every month.
Right. Thank you.
Just wanted to, I'm sorry. Oh. I was just going to piggyback on your question about the travel. I don't know if it was made clear that includes travel within district. So we have staff members who are assigned to multiple schools, staff members who may be on a child study team, world language teachers, related arts teachers who travel from one building to the other. And it's not their travel to lunch. It's not their travel to and from home. It's only their travel from once they arrive at one of their work sites and they're directed to go to another work site type of travel. In most cases, for municipal workers who work in that kind of environment where they have to travel from job site to job site, a company vehicle is provided, and that would negate that need. Our staff obviously does not have company vehicles, and so they're providing mileage to use their own vehicle to do so.
And just let me continue. So the federal mileage rate for reimbursement for any individual that works in the private sector is approximately 55 cents per mile. For educational, for people who are involved in education, the reimbursement rate is something like 32 cents. It's ridiculous. So it's a very minimal amount.
And just to clarify that board members, the only kind of reimbursement we get is really when we would have our annual training, which we haven't had off-site in 2 years. And that as volunteers and not paid, I think some of us, it costs to be on the board as it is, and we don't mind, contributing, but the attendance at a conference, as non-paid members, it typically covers that too. And the only other thing I wanted to make clear also for the public, that we're not voting on the budget today. This is just the introduction of it. And Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you want to just explain what that process is, so that we actually have the public discussion and the vote in May, and the purpose of this, so they don't think looks like we're rushing through a budget. We're not. What we're actually doing today with the vote.
Sure. Again, this is, I'm sorry, we're glad to clarify that. So this is this budget that's presented tonight is called a tentative budget. It's a budget that will be submitted to the county and the state for review to determine if we are complying with the 350 pages of regulations that we have to comply with, number one. And number two, upon their review and approval, this is the budget that is approved to be advertised in a newspaper approximately 7 days prior to the public hearing on the budget. The budget hearing is scheduled for May 6th in the resolution that I modified to a Zoom meeting rather than in person. And in that meeting, we go into the fine details of many of the line items that are included in the budget. And that presentation on the budget generally lasts anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, where we go into great detail talking about the numbers, we talk about priorities, we talk about accomplishment, we talk about facilities, we talk about tax rates. We talk about as much as we can to educate the members of the public as to where these numbers come from. These numbers are many of these numbers are generated from much of these numbers are generated from zero-based budgeting method that's in place. But again, this is tentative, preliminary, and subject to change between now and May 6th. And what will happen is we do not change this during the interim, but if a change happens on May 6th, we are actually able to change the budget. Since I've been in the district now for 8 years, we have changed the budget once between this period when we refinanced the debt service and went from an interest rate of, I believe, 4% to 1.5% on the $32 million worth of debt. And we did change the budget at the hearing. So it is tentative, preliminary, and subject to change on May 6th.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Mara.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Got my hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Weber. I saw that before. Go right ahead.
Okay. Just as an observation, I'm glad to hear, Joe, that it went from 2% to 4%, because that's going to make everybody's life easier. But I wonder if that's going to undercut the passage of the other bill. That's all speculation.
I mean, if we had both, that would be fantastic, but going from 2 to 4 for the next 2 years, I think is big for us. It will certainly help.
Okay. Was that it, Mr. Weber? You good?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so I will look for a roll call, Mr. Mara, seeing no further discussion on finance items 1 through 16.
Mr. Giordano?
Okay, I'm going to say no to 10, 11, and 15, and yes for the rest.
Okay, Mr. Sulikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Callie?
Yes.
Mr. DePrima?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 16 pass.
Okay, excellent. Now we have non-certificated personnel office, items 1 and 2. May I have a motion, please?
Callie will move.
Okay, can I have a second?
Dunn will second.
Done, Mr. Dunn. All right, any discussion? Nope, okay. Roll call, Mr. Mara.
Mr. Sulikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Resolution 1 and 2 pass.
All right. Non-certificated personnel operational items 1, 2, and 3. Can I have a motion from the floor, please?
I'll move it.
Ms. Ellis Foster, second.
Giordano, second.
Giordano. Any discussion? Non-certificated personnel operational, any discussion? Seeing no discussion, can I have a roll call, Mr. Mara?
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Sulikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Resolution 1, 2, and 3 pass.
Okay, so we have non-certificated personnel other now. And I really should have had a hard copy in front of me, so. We have items 1 through. Where's that? What's that number?
1 through 4.
Thank you. 1 through 4.
It's the 1
Any,
through 5, though.
is it 1 through,
It is
1 through 5?
That's 5.
Sorry about that. Okay.
I'm sorry if I'm making everyone dizzy scrolling. It's 1 through 5.
4. 1 through.
I'm very
Okay.
confused right now. It's
I see only 1 through 4.
Yeah,
1 through 4.
yeah.
1 through 4.
It's 1 through 5.
It says,
That's just a typo in the voting chart.
Yeah.
So just move 1 through 4.
Yes.
all right. Okay. So can I have a motion, please?
Callie will move.
It says 1 through 4. Can I have a second? Anybody?
Dunn will second.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Any discussion? Non-certificated personnel other, items 1 through 4.
Sorry, real quickly, can you explain the 8% bus salary increase? I'm just curious, where that came from? Like,
Sure.
Mr. Tui? Okay.
Yes,
sorry.
paraprofessionals receive a percentage, 10% increase on their base pay if they are assigned bus duty to help with students on and off the buses. These students have some either mobility issues or some elopement concerns, and therefore the paraprofessionals are necessary to support those students as they enter the school building and exit the school building. Earlier in the year, the paraprofessionals were placed on a 6%. Because they were working 3 days in person. That was back in October. Now we have moved up to 4 days in many cases, and therefore the paraprofessionals moved from 6% of their salary to 8% of their salary. And when we hopefully transition to 5 days on May 3rd, another agenda item will be on the May agenda to outline a 10%, which is what is contractually obligated in the contract for paraprofessionals.
thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Giordano. Anybody else? No. Okay, can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima, Mr. DePrima,
You're muted.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 4 pass.
All right. So we have certificated personnel. I really should have had a hard, I don't have a hard copy in front of me. Items 1 through,
18.
thank you. Items 1 through,
I'd like to read item 1.
okay, should we make a motion first?
Then we'll make a motion to move certificated personnel items 1 through 18, Madam President.
Okay, can I have a second, please?
Frank Weber will second.
All right, Mr. Weber will second. Now, Mr. Weber, can you please read item number 1? And again, I apologize for all this scrolling. Let me get back up there.
Move the board approve the retirement of the following staff members with deep appreciation for their years of dedicated service to the district. Fern Kaufman, Memorial School, grade 2, 25 years, effective July 1st, 21. Donna Thomas, McDivitt School, grade 1, 20 years, effective 10/1/21. Denise Levine, Carl Sandburg Middle School, math, 18 years of service and effective April 1st, 21. Karen Manasseh Wallstein, Oldbridge High School librarian, 28 years of service, effective July 1st, 21. Congratulations to all and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Weber.
Frank, you have a total of 81 years. You forgot to say that.
Yeah, listen, I'm only 5 years away from that cumulatively myself.
That's good. Okay.
Okay, yes, congratulations on your retirements. Would anyone else like to comment? Any comments or concerns or questions about certificated personnel?
Yep.
Who's,
Giordano.
go ahead, Mr. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
So-
resolution 1, I have had Ms. Kaufman for 4th grade and Ms. Wallstein as our librarian and leader of the Red Cross Club when I was going to high school. So I thank them both personally for their service to my education. And now for the rest of the resolutions, are these all paid through the CARES Act? Because a lot of them say CARES, and I just want to be have a reconfirmation of that.
Wherever you see account number 20, I believe it's 20477. You see on that number 7, that indicates that it's being paid by CARES funding. See 20-477, that's the CARES funding account number.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else? All righty, seeing no other discussion, can we have a roll call, Mr. Mara?
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 18 pass.
Okay, and there's nothing under non-certificated personnel transportation. So now we have supplies, equipment, and services. Get down here. 1 through 7. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Mr. Weber, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Alice Foster, any discussion on supplies, equipment, and services, items 1 through 7?
Yes, I'm going to separate 5 and 6 for voting.
Okay, so you want to vote for 5 and 6 together, but separately from the other? Or do you want to vote for 5 and 6 separately? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 5 and 6 together, but separate from the rest.
Got it.
Yes, thank
Okay. All right, so does anybody have any discussion on items 1 through 4 and item 7? No. Okay, so can we have a roll call on that, Mr. Mara?
Yes, okay. On items 1 through 4 and number 7, Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Okay, resolutions 1 through 4 and number 7 pass.
Okay, and now we have, do I need to make another motion?
No, you just
No.
need discussion and vote on 5.
Okay. Okay, so do we need, is there any discussion on items number 5 and 6? Mr. Giordano, did you have any discussion on that or?
But this just goes back earlier to my feelings on the Lombardi purchase and the addition of the purchase with the amendment to pay the extra money to fix the turning. We discussed that at the last meeting. So I don't know if Mr. Sedino or Mr. Mara, if you want to explain that more now for the public.
Well, first, let me just say number 6, before I'll let Mr. Cittadino explain number 5, but number 6, whenever the district undertakes a capital project to this extent, prior to us actually doing the project, the architect of record for the district has to apply to the state for approval of that project. And we're really not supposed to start the project until that approval is forthcoming. However, under COVID, the state has been a little more lenient in allowing districts to start projects, but item number 6 is just simply a request from the state to approve this project. Mr. Cittadino, would you like to elaborate on number 5? And the change in the cost?
Sure, the change in the cost is reflective of it wasn't the NJSAA, it's the governing body that oversees the racing and events. I don't have it in front of me. It put new guidelines and guidance involved for exchange areas on a track for relay events. And this would bring our relay event in compliance with those recommendations. What it does is provides a visual indicator for students, athletes who are on a relay team and entering an exchange area, that they're entering an exchange area and other athletes are on the field or on the track and they're about to come in contact with them. It gives them the beginning of the exchange area to the end of the exchange area in which the exchange of the baton has to take place. It's not only I guess a performance indicator, but a safety indicator, like a warning track would be like for baseball, that you're running at top speed, but now you're coming into contact with other athletes on the exchange area. That incorporates, I believe, $57,000 of that. The other is to bring the color aligned, the remaining, it says for approximately $40,000 is to bring the color aligned with the colors of the district and within the school. That's it.
Okay. All right.
I have a question on that. Is that, do you know, Dave, if that requirement becomes immediately retroactive to every other school within the state? Are they required to do the same work for their track?
It's for any track that's being made, broadening up to, I guess, renewed since 2019. I think that's when it happened. But if you opt not to do that, then you can put certain kinds of markers on the track instead of going with their recommended compliance.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions or comments? Okay. Can we have a roll call, Mr. Mara, on items 5 and 6?
Okay, Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
No.
Mr. Sulikowski,
No.
Mr. Weber,
No.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Resolutions 5 and 6 pass.
Okay, now we're moving on to transportation 1 and 2. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Ms. Ellis Foster, can I have a second?
Dunn will second.
Mr. Dunn, any discussion? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, Mr. Mara?
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Sulikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Resolution 1 and 2 pass.
All right, and we have miscellaneous. One through 5. Can I have a motion from the floor?
Callie will move.
Ms. Callie, can I have a second?
Giordano, second.
Mr. Giordano, any discussion? Miscellaneous resolutions 1 through 5. Seeing no discussion, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Mr. Sulikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster,
Yes.
Ms. DeCaro, my apologies, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 5 pass.
Okay. Any board secretary or board business?
No, there is
No.
none.
Okay, let me stop sharing. So now we are on hearing of the residents, any school district issue. Let me get over here. Miss Richards Patterson, I think when I went to remove you, I might have removed you from the webinar. So if you want to call in, maybe, I apologize that I tried to just remove you from the panel, and I think I removed you from the whole webinar. So if you're listening, please call in on a phone if you want to speak. And let me just, hold on, let me get this back up. Hold on, here we go. Again, this is any district item. Any district item. So right now, Mr. O'Neill, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. First, I just want to add to Dr. Tui's explanation about the paraprofessional bus duty pay. The paraprofessionals get additional pay when they are assigned bus duty because those paraprofessionals who, by the way, have a starting salary of less than $16,000 a year, they have to get to work before the contractual start time for their day, and that's why they get the additional pay. Not because they have more work to do, but because they actually have a longer day. I also just wanted to highlight from the presentation about the plan to expand in-person instruction for the rest of the year, that the plan is predicated on the reduction in community spread of the virus and in the availability and the continued rollout of the vaccine for everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Okay, next up is Jay Slade. You can unmute yourself, Mr. Slade, and just please identify yourself.
Yes, hi, it's Jay Slade.
Hi, Mr. Slade.
How are you? What a buzzkill, Mr. O'Neill says as I'm about to speak of all the contingencies, but I guess it's reality. I wanted to applaud the board and the superintendent. When I say applaud, I'm just referring to consistently being late to the dance. I guess we're supposed to feel good that we're getting crumbs, that we're going to get a measly 6 weeks of full-time learning, but I guess we're gonna have to take what we can get. A few things I wrote down. I saw that you guys highlighted the pictures of students and their hand signals. I definitely think the parents should have an opportunity to show our pictures of our hand signals after this torturous 12 months, but I doubt we'll have that opportunity. One of the slides showed the Old Bridge community as being highlighted for the numbers of viruses and cases. And I had brought this up in the past, how it shouldn't be highlighted as an Old Bridge community. I think it would be a better idea to highlight the school system as opposed to the community, where we've got just elderly and nursing homes and assisted livings, but we seem to be consistently going with the Old Bridge community. It just doesn't seem like a fair assessment to the kids. And that also falls into the student slide. I had mentioned to Mr. Cittadino that, I mean, maybe selfishly, my kids are in elementary school, that we should separate elementary school from the high school students. Just two different audiences when it comes to a student slide of who's affected by this. But my main question, if someone could clarify this, because there's a lot of buzz out there, and I did a little homework myself. If you guys can definitively discuss the org chart of how things work. I know a lot of finger pointing, a lot of members of the board are saying that it's not our responsibility, we're not decision makers. But according to an org chart that I saw online, it's kind of the Board of Ed, then the superintendent. Well, first, obviously the citizens of Old Bridge, that the superintendent actually reports to the Board of Ed. And a lot of members of the board saying, we don't make decisions, we're an advisory board. If somebody could definitively say who actually makes the decision on the closings and openings and the days and the cohorts and all the, yes, a lot of us parents want a finger to point to and who to address, because you guys keep passing the buck. So try to get those slides a little bit more accurate and define elementary schools. But yeah, I mean, if you can get that org chart defined and who actually makes the final decision, because there seems to be a lot of finger pointing out there. Thank you very much.
Mr. Pardon, I think you should answer that question.
Kara, would you like me to answer
that? Yes, you can if you'd like, Mr. Pardon.
To Mr. Slade's question, it is absolutely true that as a general matter, the superintendent and the entire administration work for the Board of Ed, and the Board of Ed sets policy and makes big picture determinations. That is in the normal course of events. 2020 and 2021 apparently are not the normal course of events. So the New Jersey Department of Education and the New Jersey Department of Health and the CDC and the federal government are dictating to school districts what to do. And that is the road back that the Department of Ed, in consultation with the Department of Health, came out with. Superintendents in every district are required to implement the terms of the road back. So the board did not vote on whether or not the school district will follow the guidance and guidelines of the Department of Health. The board did not vote on whether the school district will implement the road back that was mandated by the Department of Education, because in both cases, state agencies handed them down. As with everything else, though, the superintendent is required to implement those requirements. So that is the exception. It is certainly true that normally the Board of Education is above the administration. In this case, it is a little different because these times are a little bit different.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Parton. All right, 1414 on the telephone. If you unmute yourself There you go. And just
Can
please
you-
identify yourself, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello?
Oh my gosh, I hit the mute button instead. This is why I can't call from the house.
Okay.
This is Brooke Richards Patterson.
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. I think I hit the wrong
Yeah, I
button.
couldn't get back in. Once I was out, I was out. So I had to call in. I never call from my house phone. But thank you nonetheless for addressing it. I appreciate it. I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah, no, it wasn't you.
So I just had some questions and just touching on some of the things that you guys addressed earlier. If hopefully you can address them, following. I have just three questions, but one was regarding the snacks. I know the preference is outside. Pretty sure the kids are spaced enough to eat inside. But what would be the circumstance? Would it be that we would get kind of a general list of what we're allowed to send with our children to have, a sufficient snack till they get home for lunch at 2:00 in the afternoon? So that was my first question. I'm thrilled about that. I mean, tonight I would have asked what's going on with the snacks, so I'm grateful that that's being addressed. Thank you. And then the next thing was just, again, circling back to being outside and hopefully recess, and obviously the cleanest air possible is the best. Can somebody walk me through what a day of recess is going to be like, for these elementary school kids? I'm just curious, are they going to be like you see in Switzerland or wherever, where they're standing in a chalked out square? How is that going to work? I'm not opposed to it. I just curious as a parent what their experience is going to be like when they do get some fresh air. And then the last thing was just the half days. I feel like I've been so zoomed in on all of these calls as much as I can be, being a working parent, and then also listening in on town hall. And what's going on. I've asked them kind of what's going on with the before and after care. It's my hope as a parent who pushes, both of my kids to be the best that they can be. I want my kids both in school 5 days a week. But not having the option of before care puts me in a position where I have to, I'm grateful and I'm lucky enough to have a friend that can help me get my son on the bus who just so happens to have the same cohort days with her children. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. She may be called into work. I don't want to be in a position where I can't send my son to school. I have to continue. He's already going to daycare 3 days a week to keep him on task as best as he can be without, my presence there. So now when I went and called town hall and kind of said, well, what's going on? You guys are supporting the schools opening. Do your part. They're saying that this really kind of falls on the Board of Ed as far as not having before and after care going on yet. And that they don't expect it to happen until they're open 5 days a week. So if perhaps it's possible when you're having these discussions on as you're going to have half days for lunch or how you're going to make that work for these kids, it's time to start thinking about working parents too and how much we want our kids in. We don't want to be forced in a position where they have to stay remote because they got to pay a babysitter or something else because somebody can't, get the kids on the bus or drop them off, curbside at the school. So those were just my three things I wanted to touch on. Again, I don't want to bash the school. I'm really grateful that things are moving in the direction that really is in the best interest of the kids, which is back live. And those were the couple of things that I just were hoping that would be addressed before the next caller. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Does anybody want to answer any questions?
Mr. Carroll, what we've talked about, we're going to, and I think I copied you on this. What we're going to do is have everyone ask their questions. We're writing them down.
Oh, so sorry.
We'll answer the questions. A lot of times we're answering a question. I don't know if some people are calling in later on, not hearing, and we're answering the same question over and over. So this way that we get all the questions, we write them down at the conclusion of the public opportunities to speak. hearing from the residents. We will answer all the questions that were asked that require an answer.
Absolutely. Sorry. Yes, I didn't see that, Mr. Cittadino. Okay. Okay, so we will address that at the end of the public hearings. So the next person up, the last four digits on the phone is 3455. If you unmute yourself, you can speak and please identify yourself. 3455. Unmute yourself and you can speak and identify yourself first, please. 3455. No? Okay. 3455 can't seem to unmute, or I don't know what's going on there. Okay, so we don't have any other hands raised. So I apologize, 3455, but we can't hear you. And seeing no other hands, okay, one more hand raised. Next one is Catherine Bach. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, this is actually Tim, her husband. I just wanted to ask Mr. Parton if he could clarify his comment about the previous caller's question, and he can do that, later in the call. But the question about, who makes the ultimate call, it sounded like the direction is given down from the state, the Department of Health, et cetera, all the governing bodies. But if that's the case, how could each district have different plans and different, go back to school plans if that's in fact, forced down or directed? It seems that ultimately somebody on the local level decides what guidelines to adhere to and what plan is implemented at what time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bach.
Thanks.
All right, I am gonna go to, we're gonna try 3455 again. If you unmute yourself. Oh, 345 went away. Okay. At this point, seeing no other hands raised, I'm going to end the public comment portion and the hearing of the residents. And we will move on to the rest of the agenda. One second.
Well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Now we're going to
I'm so sorry. Yes, we're going to, I'm sorry.
All right.
Comments.
So the questions from Brooke Richards Patterson, snacks. So what we're looking, and is a brief description of that will go home tomorrow in the weekly update for parents. We're talking about goldfish, Rice Krispie treats, maybe vegetable sticks, fruit snacks, something that is a quick snack that students could have they have their water in school with them, something that can require them to lower their mask for a brief period. We're talking about a 10-minute snack and mask break to give them a snack and some energy to get through the days, especially as the days get warmer and they burn more calories as being outside and so forth. So something of that nature. We're not talking about a Subway sandwich or a cup of soup or something like that that would require utensils and so forth. So a quick snack that I know that my kids at home are always raiding the cabinet looking for when they get home from school. As far as recess, I will have Dr. Hoker address what recess will look like after I address the before and after care. In my conversations with Township before and after care, they are still committed to providing before and after care to the community of Old Bridge. We have a meeting scheduled for later this week to talk more about the facilities that they'll need and so forth. But as far as when it begins, I'm sure they're going to be looking at that as they get our information as to our schools opening 5 days a week, and they'll be looking at that information. And I know they're in future years, they're definitely committed to the before and after care and our great recreation program headed up by Mr. Mercurio. So I'm sure more information will be coming from the township to address those matters.
All right, thank you. I can take the recess. I would like to hope that when we are back full-time and able to have lunch, that recess would look very different than what it would look like if we were in today. So hopefully there will be more options for us as we get closer to that time. But some of the discussions that have taken place is working with our phys ed teachers to give us some somewhat structured activities that they're using in the phys ed classes, that the students can be active outside, but with some type of structure where they are not necessarily running in on top of each other and can maintain some sort of distance. And in addition, we have teachers that are out on our duty time during recess with our noon hour supervisors that often do different walks or different types of activities where they can keep students together but yet separate. So I believe that there would be a variety of options that would take place and would vary from school to school dependent upon the number of students that are actually participating in recess at any given time.
Thank you. And just to, I know he asked Mr. Parton to look at, just to Mr. Box follow up to Mr. Slade's question. The answer is simple. The state gives guidelines and directives and recommendations on these type of matters. Again, I can't say that they've had in the lifetime of anyone on this call a pandemic to give this kind of guidance to of this magnitude. But those recommendations, guidelines, and everything else filters through the county office to me. Then ultimately, I make the decision. I make my decision. I go through the board. I allow them to know what my decision will be. But if you want to point fingers at bad decisions, you don't like it, it's my responsibility. Everyone else here on this call is a volunteer, the 9 people there. I make the bad decisions. And when something good happens, when we're a national district of character or something of that nature, we all made the decisions that make that possible, from everyone who drives a bus to everyone who crosses kids across the street to the top of the levels of the board members. That's the simple answer.
Thank you, Mr. Zazina.
That is basically what I was going to say, Mr. Caro. The guidelines are set up and they're implemented at the district level. Every district is different.
Right. So, yeah, and just to the point of, why are different districts doing different things? Like just what you said, every district is different. They have a different enrollment number. They have a different amount of schools. It's just different. All the variables are different.
Just one last thing to Mr. Slade's point, why do we only show the township data? We don't show district data. There's a slide for township and there's a slide for the district. The reason we show township data is because there are senior citizens in the township, sure, but anyone of birth to deceased shows up as a district resident up until the time that they're a deceased person. If they have COVID-19, they show up. Anyone from ages 3 to 18 comes across my attention as a possible student. So if there are 57 cases in the township, then there's a good chance that a proportion of them are related to the school district. When you have some towns that we've been compared to, why aren't we doing what they do? When they have 3 cases in their whole town, the probability that one of them is in the school district is less than if there's 57 in the school district. We do another slide. So I don't know what saying there's not a comparison. There's a whole nother slide of the students and the staff, positive COVID, new cases that is there. It's part of the presentation. It's part on the website every day for anyone who wants to follow the data. So to say that we're not providing both sets of information is erroneous. We don't provide at grade levels and classes because we don't always get that information that way. And some of the information that we do get is also protected information. We're not going to label students who are in the preschool program as to having COVID because there's less of them, and then you're possibly giving indicators as to who has it and whatnot. So the information we give is transparent, and go on any other district's website. There is not that level of transparency on any district website showing the number of students that have it, and the number of staff that have new positive COVID cases. I promise you.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any comments about the comments? All right, so we'll go on to old business. Is there any old business?
Yes, I'd like to ask Dr. Tui a couple of questions.
Sure.
Could you expand on the tests that have been pushed back to April 5th? What specific tests they are and what grade levels they cover?
Sure. There's three standardized assessments. It's the NJSLA, the DLM, and the science assessment. None of those three assessments were issued last year as part of the postponement by the federal government in terms of standardized assessments for all districts. As of right now, the latest information that I saw through something forwarded by Mr. Caulfield, who's our supervisor of science and standardized testing, is the federal government is currently weighing the merits of standardized assessments as we transition into the spring. One of the concerns is through the end of this year, parents in New Jersey, it appears, will have the option to maintain a remote environment for their students, making it very difficult to provide any sort of standardized assessment outside the AP exams, which is a totally separate entity from the state. So the three assessments, the NJSLA, the DLM, which is for students who have or identify as needing special education related services, have a significant cognitive impairment, and also finally the New Jersey the standard science standardized tests are up in the air as of right now.
All right, my big concern, Jim, is that if we don't have a frame of reference, and again, even if we had to go back to the state test that was last administered pre-COVID, and compared our current marks of this year to the marks of the year before the COVID, that would be some foundation for at least understanding where we are, not comparing ourselves to any other districts or things like that, in my opinion. And if they do away with these tests, my question still comes back to what I mentioned a few weeks ago. If there is a plan in the administration that we have all of this under control, I think that there should be a committee of the whole, a curriculum meeting for them to share that with all of the board members so we understand it, so we can explain it to people who ask us every day. Because right now, the reality is you lost 35% of the 1920 school year, and you've lost whatever the percentage is of real-time learning for kids. So if you don't have some assessment tool, we think it's going to be worse for the elementary school kids, but if a kid in high school has lost essentially most, I know they can do better virtually, but we do have time with the younger kids to make this up over time if we adjust our curriculum to make up for the lost time and we prioritize what subjects we teach. So I think that there's something, hopefully the tests are going to be given in some form so we have a frame of reference that puts us on an understanding of what we've lost education, which is certainly not the fault of anyone here. But the question is, how do we get out of the hole that the pandemic has dug for us? That's my biggest concern, because these kids only get a chance to go through the school system once, and when they lose over a year now and they turn out to be, how much more of diminished learning we have, it can be a real, it can be a real disaster for these kids in their educational life.
Mr. Weber, just to follow up, 'cause I know you brought that up last week, and we had a plethora of presentations already planned for today. At either the agenda meeting for April or the board meeting for April, Dr. Calandria is going to address the board and give an educational summation similar to what Dr. Tui did last month as far as the IEP process, as far as the assessment process and the benchmark assessments that we use similar to Easy CBM and a plethora of others that we do use to measure our student growth over the course of that. And, I know that we did lose about 35% or the percent in person, but, our teachers were working hard in educating students even remotely. So I don't want to say that, all that time was lost, but that we are working hard in the conditions that they were in. And I believe they all did do that. And again, the assessments will tell where we're at. And as promised, Dr. Calandria will give a full update to the board and kind of an education into how assessments are used and how we draw information from those assessments to target interventions for our students going forward. And it was subject of a meeting we had today looking at learning loss and the new CARES funds that were just released publicly, but not presented to us in Old Bridge, and how we can address that over the course of the summer up until 2023 with some of the funds that we look to receive through that CARES and addressing that learning loss that you speak of.
I'll be looking forward to it.
Okay. Any other, do we have any new business? Anybody else?
We have new business.
I know.
So I'll hand it over to Dr. Hogan in a second, but part of the questions that we get from the public is, what are we doing to recruit staff? We can't find subs, we can't find teachers during this time period where it's hard to find people who are committed to education, who are currently outside of education that want to come into it during a pandemic. So not only have we recruited an outside agency to assist us in the process, but we've also gone to other measures to try to address that concern. And Dr. Hoker is going to introduce us to a recruitment video, which was put together by the district.
So thank you. Just before you play that video, just to give you a little bit more background, we partnered with Central Jersey, CJ Pride, which is Central Jersey Program for Recruitment of Diverse Learners, Diverse Educators, sorry. And this is a consortium of multiple districts around the area and throughout the state. 40 plus are in the partnership, and we will be participating next Wednesday in a virtual job fair. The candidates in the candidate pool are global candidates. We as of Monday, when the job fair opened to the candidates to apply, there were over 500 candidates in the first day. So we are looking to post for potential open positions that we have for next year. They will be open during the job fair. We have all of our supervisors and both our elementary and secondary interview committees that will be participating from 4 to 8 p.m. We have a strategic plan in being able to screen the applicants beginning on Monday and Tuesday, having monitors in a chat room to let them in to meet with the interviewers. And then we have time slots that are set up for a second round of interviews the following day, and then additional interviews when we return from spring break, in the hopes to secure the candidates as in the first round, and I'll say steal them from other districts. That's really what we will be doing. We will be competing for our hard to fill positions in the first round. There is another job fair that we will be participating in April for the positions that we were not able to fill. And at that time, I actually met with Kelly Services today that we will also be trying to assist them with recruiting additional substitutes. As Mr. Citadino said earlier, there is definitely a shortage there. So part of our virtual job booth, we have created a video, and I'll thank Mr. Gajewski, who did the voiceover and really put together a nice video. And this is available to the candidates as they step into the booth. They see our Old Bridge brochure, they see the job openings, they see an overview of our district. we have put multiple other pieces in there so that they can get a feel for what Old Bridge is like. And in hopes that they want to come to us as opposed to the other districts that are in the consortium. So, Mr. Caro.
Okay, and thank you for telling me who that voice was. It was driving me nuts. I couldn't figure it out. All right, here we
James
go.
Earl Jones was not available to us this year.
Okay, I'm sure you asked him.
The Old Bridge Public School District is now.
Maybe if you refresh. We'll have to reach out to James Earl Jones too.
So apparently there was no sound?
Correct.
I think when you muted yourself, Jill, when you muted yourself.
Oh, is that what
muted-
happened? Do you want me to play it again? I can do that. Hold on. I am so sorry about that. How's that?
The Old Bridge Public School District is nationally recognized for excellence both in and out of the classroom. We offer a variety of programs to serve our large and diverse population. There is truly something for everyone, from the arts, learning a vocation, the most rigorous advanced placement courses, and maybe along the way to make some new friends. Old Bridge offers cutting-edge programs and has been recognized as a national district of character for multiple years for creating an environment that promotes inclusivity and caring. It is a large school district covering 40 square miles, but it has the feel of a small town where people get to know one another and care for one another. The Old Bridge School District offers a bridge to the future. Are you ready to cross on over?
Okay. Well, it was really good when you could hear it, right? Sorry about that. Just trying to be respectful. I muted myself. Okay. So I think that's the last of my shares. All righty. At this time, I put that down. All righty. Any other new business from the floor? Miss Alice Foster.
Yeah, I just wanted, before we close, I wanted to make sure, I wanted to thank Mr. Bell and the students for that beautiful musical number. I know I did see it earlier this week on Twitter. He had posted it, and I know the difficulty of meshing up music when it's done virtually, and really amazing of those students that they were able to continue to learn that and the beautiful thing. So that was so appreciative. I'd also again like to thank Dan Rena and the high school kids, just doing amazing things, keeping us in the right attitude, you know, still giving back, still getting things done. So I thank them so much. And I'd also just like to make a clarification or just, and unfortunately, I don't believe Mr. Slade is on. I just want to clarify, as he talked about students doing hand signals, just to clarify this, that was in support of our students and inclusion. It is an initiative district-wide that is being spearheaded by our SEPTA, which is Special Education PTA. And they're using American Sign Language. That's what they were doing with their hands to spell out "we are one." And fortunately, us here on the panel and Mr. Slade have the ability to speak with our voices and say what we'd like, but there are many students in our district that only get to speak with their hands. So that's what they were doing. So I applaud the students throughout the district that are doing this program. I've seen it at the high school, at the elementary school, middle school, sports teams, everyone sharing it in on that wonderful initiative. So I would just like to thank those students. And so just to clarify, that's what that was. The other thing I would just like to say personally, I know I've said this before, that I'm on the task force. And in those meetings, we discuss great details, discuss, debate, disagree sometimes on things. And while it's true, Mr. Sedadino makes the ultimate decision as in the administrative responsibility, if you want to point a finger, I will stand by the decisions I have made, not only this year and other years, the very difficult decisions. So I have supported the plan that the district has put together. As we said from the beginning, it's to get everybody back. So feel free to throw some blame here if that's what some people would like to do. I will stand by my decisions. But I'm thankful that we're moving forward, as we've said. Hopefully we continue to see the decline. There was an uptick, but we consider get to see that, and we're looking forward to getting everyone back and safely and in good health. So thank you. That's all that I wanted to make sure to speak on.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis Foster. Would anyone else like to speak? Ms. Kelly?
Sorry, I know, I caught myself. Thank you, Ms. Ellis Foster, for your clarification of the "we are one," because I was a little bit confused by Mr. Slade's comments about the opportunity to give the parents I'm sorry, that he was asking about an opportunity for parents to do hand signs. But anyway, I wanted to thank the task force because I know that they work tirelessly, and they too are all volunteers, and many hours you put into helping the district on the road back. And I wanted to thank the administration for always looking out for our students and staff. Thank you to Mr. Bell. I wanted to put my 2 cents in there too. That really was a beautiful video. And there was something else I wanted to say, and I just forgot. So I guess that's it. Thank you.
Okay, well, if you think of it, we're done.
My hand again. Thank you.
Okay. I think there was someone else. Mrs. Burns, did you? Yeah.
I also wanted to thank Mrs. Foster for that correction. We have a very diverse community, and I think that it's important that we acknowledge the American Sign Language and we use the correct terminology. I think that that's disrespectful to that community. I would have done it earlier, but everyone in the house was in the kitchen, and I'm still getting rid of some of them. I wanted to thank Mr. Sedadino for acknowledging the females on the board for Women's Month. And that's it. That's all my notes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Mr. Giordano, was that you?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm glad to see the move towards 5 days a week for in-person learning, even though, as many parents know, it is longer than many of us would have wanted. As we know, 15 days to slow spread turned into a year. So a lot of us are very anxious to get back to normal. But the most important thing is getting the kids in, and then we can focus on going back to complete normality, such as 2019. And I want to thank the people that gave blood last Saturday. It's a good cause. It makes you feel great. So I appreciate the people that did that. And do your own research, diet and exercise, and enjoy the rest of your break. And we will see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so before, I believe we're going into executive session, right, Mr. Barton? Correct? Okay, so before we do that, just as far as I'm concerned, I'm not gonna belabor Ms. Ellis Foster said it absolutely perfectly, and Ms. Callie and Mrs. Burns, you know, reiterating it as well. I fully embrace the We Are One American Sign Language, and it's such a wonderful thing for people that just don't have the ability to use their voice. So I fully embrace that. And, you know, and also, yes, I'm also on the task force. So Mr. Cittadino and administration, you know, do make those decisions, but being on the task force, as Ms. Ellis Foster said, we go back and forth, and many, many things are discussed, and we hear from various stakeholders, and, you know, things are brought up, things are debated, things are, you know, changed as we speak. So again, I stand along. If you'd like to point a finger, you can point at me as well. So that's all I have to say regarding that. And Mr. Parton, can you walk us to executive session?
Yes. We just need a very brief executive session for one matter of attorney-client privilege. And the board will not be back other than to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Burns will make the motion.
Ms. Burns, can I have a second?
Callie will second.
Ms. Callie, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm sorry, I'm taking
That's
over your
okay.
spot, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, at 9:54, we're going into executive session.
All right. Good night, everyone. That is not on the panel. It's not on the board.
Good night, almost everybody.
Almost. Bye, Joanne.
And Joe, you can stop recording YouTube.
Yes. Thank you for that reminder.